Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Tag Betting Show. We're here with our resident expert, Adam. Adam, how you doing?
Resident expert. I mean, that's the
Yeah,
first time that's ever come out, isn't it? What's going on here?
you've got a proper host now. In a Packers jersey. If everyone could have seen your face when we joined, and me in the Favre legendary Packers jersey, you were. It's the happiest I've seen you. I
Yeah,
think.
I just surprised. Let's put it that way. Surprised that it came out. But there you go. It's always good. Yeah. Now that I've got a proper host, was it you said? I'm sure Andrew would be thrilled with that one. So yeah.
I couldn't resist, but he knows it doesn't mean that. He does a great job. But yeah, standing in for Andrew today. So we'll see how that goes. And before we get into the bets and these six games, what do you make of sort of some of the breaking news that's happened in the last couple of days? Were there any shocks or, not just trying to get to any Belichick talk, but, was there anything surprising there that, you thought didn't see that coming or?
I think Vrabel going was a bit of a
Yeah.
surprise, wasn't it? I think that was the one really that we were all pretty shocked at. I think everyone knew Rivera was going to be going. That was kind of what it was like. Belichick, it's not a massive surprise given what's happened, but I think I know you weren't a happy bunny because of it. But yeah, I think there wasn't really anything else, was there? I think they were the main three that went. And yeah, I mean, Vrabel, probably the biggest one that was a surprise.
Yeah, I agree. Before I start crying about Belichick, we'll move on. So obviously, as normal, we're going to look at the spread for all the games. We'll start with one which is a bit reasonable for everybody time wise, the Browns and Texans. For me, this is one of the tougher games to call. But how do you feel about the spread on this one with the Texans at +2 at home as well?
I actually thought that this was kind of one of the more interesting games. I think it's kind of gone under the radar a little bit, this one.
Mhm.
The Browns are 2-point favourites in this one, going away to the Texans. I think it's a bit of a coin flip game, to be honest. I think it could go either way. I don't think there's a lot in it. When you look at the sort of stats from the season, it feels very much that both teams have got defenses that are decent. I mean, the Texans maybe not quite so much. You can certainly run on the Texans defense. They're currently tied 27th when it comes to giving up rushing touchdowns. So I think that in itself means that there is a weakness there, which kind of makes me go towards the -2 for the Browns. There is a bit of a potential banana skin because of Joe Flacco. You do sort of think to yourself, can he keep this going? Can he sort of just continue to sort of like this deal with the devil that he seems to have done in order to come back and be this amazing sort of quarterback at the age of 38? So I think it's it's a tough one to sort of go for, but I instinctively, because of the defense, I do go for the Browns. I think that they are at the -2. I think they're worth going for. It's less than a field goal, so you're going to go down that route, I think. But I think it will be very close, and the Texans have done really well to get where they've got to.
Yeah, I agree. I think I probably have the Browns winning by about 4, so I'd feel confident with that. So let's put them. Obviously, we'll come to all the players after, but yeah, moving on to one of the more exciting ones. We get the not just Taylor Swift. I'm sure she'll be in attendance, but obviously we'll have Tyreek Hill returning to Arrowhead. I'm sure Tyreek Hill's excited because obviously him not being on the Chiefs, he's never got to see Taylor Swift, has he? Well, I wonder if he's more excited for that but yeah, with the spread, I mean, just quickly before obviously you give us your opinion, I don't feel confident in talking too much about the Dolphins because I hate on them too much, but I don't know if this +4.5 is a bit harsh. Obviously the Chiefs are at home, but yeah, how do you feel about it?
I feel like it's probably the one game that I don't really have any sort of deep desire to watch, to be honest. This is I'm kind of glad that it's on at the time it is for us over here. There's a lot of Dolphins fans over here though that are going to be really up for it, but it doesn't really excite me that much. It's a tough one to go for. I do think the Chiefs at -4.5 is the one that I'm looking at. I just think that they are the sort of playoff hardened team that are going to be able to sort of like have the experience, get through this. The Dolphins currently, their defensive stats have not been great this season. They're not the best defense. Tied 17th against rushing touchdowns, they're kind of middle of the road. They're 25th against passing touchdowns, so you can score on this defense with relative ease. The Chiefs' offense obviously hasn't been fantastic, but given the fact that their defense has been very solid for pretty much the whole season, it feels like they're at home. They've got it the fan base on their side there. -4.5, it is a little bit high, but I just feel like they're going to be able to slow Tua down. And also, we've got this like ridiculous stat, haven't we, that basically Tua can't win in bad weather. And
Yeah.
it's there's this thing that they're talking about, isn't it? -30 wind chill they're talking about, or something
The
crazy.
tickets are cheap.
Apparently,
I saw they're $35 to even go. So yeah, I know.
it
No one wants to
it's
brave the
going to be
cold.
horrendous for them in this particular game. So, given the amount of snow that's landed there already and what they're predicting, it feels like the -4.5 on the Chiefs side with the better defense is the way to go. Also, I know we don't really do it, but on the total over/under set of
Mhm.
44, I think I'd be looking at the under as well for that. I
Yeah.
just think you're going to get a lot of rushing and not a lot. But I think Pacheco will have a good game. But yeah, so for me, -4.5, I like for the Chiefs on that one.
Yeah, it's interesting the over's still at that because when earlier in the week when I did my preview, I think I had the Chiefs 24-21. But now that I think
Mhm.
about it, I wouldn't be surprised it was even like a 17-14 or something if the weather's going to be like that and a few more field goal attempts. But yeah, it'll be interesting. And I agree, it's not one that I'm rushing to stay up for.
No, and also I think if Tua does continue to struggle the way that he has in this poor weather, I mean that kind of nullifies Hill a little bit. And
Yeah.
so I think when you start doing that, is Waddle going to be back? That's another one where there seems to be a bit of conflicting reports on that. It feels like things have sort of all fallen apart a little bit for the Dolphins with injuries and just the fact that it's just not really working with the likes of Bradley Chubb out as well. It's gonna. I don't think the Chiefs will be amazing, but I think they'll do enough to get over the line and probably get the -4.5.
Yeah, the Bradley Chubb thing you said that you took the words out of my mouth. I mean, they've had a couple of other guys go down as well, haven't they? So does it really bode? Even if they get all those offensive pieces back, doesn't help. And speaking of disrespectful, I'm sure Fred won't like this. The plus 9.5 for the Steelers on the 6 p.m. on Sunday. I mean, Buffalo obviously could have put up more points last week if Josh Allen didn't have those turnovers, and TJ Watt not being available is obviously going to hurt them. But do you think that 9.5 is too high, or yeah, where do you see this one?
Yeah, so for me, I do feel it's too high. It was +10 yesterday, so it's obviously been backed a
Okay.
little bit to bring it down to 9.5. I actually had the Steelers at +10. I don't think the Steelers are going to win. I think the Bills are going to win this, and I think to a certain degree, I could see them winning it by 7 reasonably comfortably, like just keeping the Steelers at arm's length all the way through. Um, but it does feel like a little bit of a disrespect where again, I think this is going to be about two defenses and how it's not going to be the most exciting game in the world. I don't think it's going to be about them two defenses. Obviously, TJ Watt not being there is a massive blow for the Steelers, and I think that is just something that's going to be very difficult to overcome, which is why I feel that the Bills will win it relatively easily. But I just think that the Steelers, even at +9.5, I think is definitely something that I would be looking at. It's quite a big amount, and I fail to see that the Bills have improved. They have, and
Mhm.
defensively they've improved as well. But I just fail to see how the Bills are gonna sort of put on kind of like because you're basically asking them to put on about what 25, 30 points in this game in order to cover this spread.
Yeah,
This, the Steelers. Mason Rudolph hasn't been. He's been okay since he's come back. He hasn't been amazing, but he's been okay. And you just sort of think I could see like Najee and Jalen Warren doing enough in order to get say like 15 points in this game. If that's the case. You're asking for the Bills to hit 30 something, and it does feel a little bit like it's going to be tough for them to do that when the over under with these two defenses is so low at 34 points. So I think +9.5 for the Steelers is the way forward for me.
It is a weird one because, I mean, I posted that I had the Bills winning by 11 and someone said didn't think it would be that close and they were a Steelers fan. And I thought, wow, that speaks to the confidence that some Steelers fans
Yeah.
have in their team. Like you said, some people think it will be by at least 2 touchdowns, but I completely agree with you. I think for the Bills to win by that amount, they'd have to put up at least 25, 30 points. And I think that's where the disrespect side that I alluded to comes in because I know Mike Tomlin has an indifferent record in the playoffs, but even when he loses, I can't think of any, comprehensive like major blowouts other than them against the Patriots. Usually they're quite competitive even when they do lose.
Yeah, I don't really feel like Tomlin sort of puts out a bad team ever, and even with TJ Watt gone for this game, it feels like they do have good players. It isn't just him. I mean, don't get me wrong, he is a massive impact on that team, and it's a huge loss for them. But he's not like the only guy on that defense. They do have other good defensive players there, and so they are going to slow the Bills down quite a bit. I think. I just feel like they're not going to have enough in order to win it, but they'll have enough in order to cover the spread.
Yeah, if they did win it, it would remind me of when old Mark Sanchez and the Jets somehow made the title game, beating the Colts and Patriots. If Rudolph could start pulling off playoff victories, I don't know what will have happened. But then we move on to your beloved Packers against my, well, I don't think it's even closet Cowboys fan now because everyone keeps mentioning that I am a Cowboys fan when I'm not. But, because you can see my admiration for you that I've even put the Packers jersey on, considering they're
I mean,
playing my
it
Cowboys.
seems like you will wear a jersey for anyone. You will. So that seems to be how it is. But
Let's
yeah,
not.
the Packers are going to the Cowboys. 7-point underdogs in this one. Over under 50.5. I think it could be quite a high scoring game. Could be quite an exciting
Yeah.
game. This one. Very happy that it's on at 9:30. Excellent decision for us over here. So yeah, I think this is going to be one of the more exciting ones. I, although a Packers fan, it's going to be tough, I think, in order to be able to go into Dallas and get a win here. I think it's very, very difficult against a team who I can't quite remember what the stat is, but they've won an insane amount of games at home now in a
I
row.
think it's 16 in
And
a row now. I think it's
yeah,
16.
yeah, so it feels like it's going to be a really tough one to do. However, I do believe they'll make it respectable. I think they've definitely got enough talent on that offense. Jordan Love playing really, really well, and plenty of receivers. And Aaron Jones isn't going to be fit apparently, which is going to be a big plus for them. It all kind of feels like there's going to be an ability in order to score plenty of points. I think it means that they will keep up the way that
Mm-hmm.
the Cowboys have been this year predominantly is that they've destroyed really weak teams, and then when they've actually played someone who's decent, they've still won, but they've kind of like the score's been a lot tighter. So I think the +7 for the Packers is what appeals to me. It's basically a touchdown. I can see that being the case, that's how it's going to end up almost with a 7-point or 6-point difference. And I think that, the Packers will do okay with what feels like a slightly better defense as well in the last few weeks. Since the Carolina game, I know that Matt LaFleur made a big thing about the fact that he was going to get more involved with the defensive play calling, and that does seem to have made a difference. They're still not great. You're still going to be able to run on them, and they won't do everything right, but they are better than what they have been. So I think because of that, that's it. All kind of leans towards the +7 for them, and this being maybe a slightly closer game than what a lot of people are thinking.
Yeah, I think even I've changed my mind as the week's gone on, not just from all the good points you've made, but the Packers are actually a good team. And I'm really happy that Jordan, we spoke about Jordan Love in the off season and I talked him up. And I think in that 6-2 run for you guys to make the playoffs, he had an 18-1 touchdown to interception ratio, which is phenomenal. So obviously plenty of confidence going into Dallas. But like you said, I just think Cowboys will have the edge, but at the start of the week, I was thinking Cowboys by 10, but maybe I'm probably now looking more towards, say, the 3-6 range and then giving them a bit of a scare, but Dallas might just have a bit too much. But I agree, I like that +7. Then
That must be what happens when you put the jersey on. You see, you suddenly start coming
I've got some
over.
curd of cheese waiting for Sunday night, which yeah, they say to not eat cheese or chocolate before bed, so I'll have to stay up for the Rams and Lions, obviously, then at 1:15. And this is a game where I need your expertise because well, as you know, in our chat earlier, I was starting to change my mind. I don't know where to go with this one. So take it away, please.
So I'm pretty much going to stick where I was for the chat show on Tuesday night. I'm not changing my mind. I personally I think the Rams at +3 is the way forward. I like the look of the Rams at the moment. I think that they've been very good this season. It's a bit unexpected by some of us. I know Andrew was a massive fan of what they were doing and thought that they would do well and that they would be a playoff team. So yeah, I mean there were people out there, just not many of us, I don't think. So they've done very well. Stafford is fit, which is incredibly important. Karp, Nakua, they've got some weapons. Demarcus Robinson has looked good as well in the last few weeks for the Rams. And the Lions give up passing touchdowns for fun. They are currently 27th against passing touchdowns. I think you're going to see that the Rams are going to be able to keep up with them. I do think the Rams defense isn't fantastic, but it is better than the Lions. And I just think that you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. It looks like Laporta's going to be playing. It is the way that they're talking. It looks like he will be involved, which I think was a bit of a surprise. I don't think any of us thought that he would be, but it looks like that they will be there. But even still, I think that the weapons on the Rams side are better. And I think that the defense on the Rams side is better. So if I think both of them things, then I'm going to go for the Rams to take this. And the fact that I'm getting 3 points as well is just even more of a reason for me to go down that route. So yes, the Lions are good at home, but I think that they are beatable, and I think the Rams are actually a decent outfit.
Yeah, I agree, but I think the cat appearing there, it's a mini lion. Maybe it's a sign that Detroit are going to do. It's this Laporta news. I mean, that was my justification all week was that without him, he's been so trusty for Goff throughout the season. Obviously, phenomenal rookie campaign. And I thought, without him, then the Rams will take this away. But now I'm a bit conflicted. But like you said with Andrew, he was probably one of the only people I know who talks the Rams up. And the fact they've got two young studs with Kyron Williams and Nakua, I mean, that's McVay's sort of dream, isn't it? When you're an offensive mind like that, when you've already got that Stafford and Cup connection. So, yeah, maybe you've convinced me that I'll stick with the Rams. But I think regardless of that, for them to be at +3, yeah, if you're looking at that, that's the key point.
Yeah, I mean, I even like them to win. So I mean, outright. So the fact that you're getting a +3 for them, I think that they're going to be. It's the right bet to go for.
And then we have, my Baker Mayfield, going against the Eagles. And I know that our very own Gareth is dreading this. He won't be staying up. I even asked an Eagles fan who started at work yesterday if he'll be staying up, and he said no. He didn't want to put himself through the torment. And it's weird, right, to see Eagles fans like this. I mean, they're still at -3, but it's just all a bit doom and gloom considering they've lost 5 of their last 6. So are you going to make a case for them, or are you on the Baker train?
I have to say this is probably the hot. When I say the first one was a coin flip, this one is even more of a coin flip. It really could go either way. I really don't like it. I'm probably making a catastrophic error here, but I am going to go -3 on the Eagles. I just think that they're the team with the experience when it comes to this, or certainly more experience than the Bucks. I feel recently anyway, and I just think that although their defense has struggled, the Bucks do struggle to put points up sometimes. I mean, last week they only managed to score 9 against the Panthers, and that defense is not great. And the fact that you can only put, you could argue that that's all they needed to do, but the fact that they could only put 3 field goals up against the Panthers defense is they were bottom when it comes to giving up rushing touchdowns. everyone was running on them for fun all season, and for whatever reason they couldn't do it. It does scare you, and so I just feel like the Eagles with them players, the likes of AJ Brown and Devonta Smith and Dallas Goddard, the way that they can get Hurts over the line, I think, and even though he's got a, is it dislocated finger, I think it's like he's going to be out there playing. It's all going to be strapped up, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. I just feel like they're a slightly better team overall than what the Bucks are. Now that doesn't mean that the Bucks can't like just go off and win this one, because the Eagles really are a team that you can score on. I mean, they're 31st when it comes to giving up passing touchdowns, so you can do that. I would expect Mike Evans to have a great game. But the amount of times that I have come out and said, I expect Mike Evans to have a great game this season, and he does nothing, has been like ridiculous. And then he'll go and be amazing in the game afterwards. So it's a very difficult one, this one. I'm going to go for the Eagles just purely because I think that I just think they've got enough talent on the offense in order to get them through it. But it's going to be close, I think.
Yeah, it's a weird one because what you mentioned there about the pass defense for Tampa, I mean, they're 29th and the Eagles are 31st. And I've seen a lot of people say about this being an offensive shootout. But, I've talked up Tampa's key players on that defense sort of all year. And we know the Eagles pass rush is phenomenal. So, yeah, I actually think that under, segueing there is actually quite good in this. I probably would put it like 21-17 either way. And, maybe I do agree with the -3. Even if I was taking Tampa, I couldn't really sit here and say, the Bucks are going to win by 7+. I think it could go down to a field goal because there'll be some nerves, and defensive. Any team, even if they're not great with defensive talent, always shines through in the playoffs, and both of these teams have that.
Yeah, I think historically as well, the under does normally come off. It's quite rare that you get shootouts in games like in the playoffs. It does become almost a very sort of cat and mouse type game. I just feel like that if that's the case, if it gets like that, then I think the Eagles players are just going to have the recent experience of last year to sort of lean on. Bucks, I know they had the experience with Brady, but obviously that's been a couple of years now, and so that's maybe not so much likely. But yeah, I mean, we got the fivefold up last week, so there's your sixfold at 48.5 to 1.
Look at
it. Just saying.
It's looking good, honestly. I don't know if that boost is. Maybe I'll do it. I won't start placing bets now, but I'll take a cheeky screenshot and then later I'll back you on that. So I've got someone to blame if it doesn't come in.
Thank you.
That's all right. We'll do reverse order for players before we go on to our trebles. So with this game on the Monday Night Football, who is there that you've sort of looked at? I feel like there's definitely, you said about Mike Evans. I feel like you're definitely going to say one player, but I won't tell you who it is until you maybe say it.
So yeah, Mike Evans. I like the look of Mike Evans for this one. He should score. He's going, like I said, they're 31st when it comes to giving up passing touchdowns. The Eagles defense. He should be able to score. But like I say, I've said this multiple times, but he should be able to at 6-5. AJ Brown, if he's out there, like the look of AJ Brown at 11-8. And then the only other one that I kind of had a sort of inkling towards was Dallas Goddard at 5-2. I just feel like Goddard is the safety blanket. We've said this multiple times for Jalen Hurts, and to me it feels like he's got going up against that Bucks defense that you can pass on, you can score on, and I just wonder if his usage is going to go up a little bit because it's the playoffs and because he's sort of like the security blanket for him.
I typed Adam will say I like Dallas Goddard or Cade Otton, so that was my guess. I feel like you talked up this season as well. I mean, but tight ends, we always say they're trusty, especially in the big moments. So
yeah. Otton is someone I've had for a few. I mean, yeah, quite possibly he might do a bigger price. I prefer Goddard just because I think that the Eagles will probably score more. But yeah, they're both decent options.
And then in the McVay Goff million storyline, grudge match, Who've you got in? Oh, I mean, I was going to say Jared Goff rushing touchdown. I had a look earlier. I mean, that's the same price as Jordan Love, by the way, which really shocks me considering that Jordan Love has had 2 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 games, and we know Jared Goff is not a scrambler and he's a pocket passer. So maybe steer away from that. But who else have you got?
So in this one, for the Lions, it's going to be Amon Ra. He is the main option for him. It is 6-5, so it is a bit short, but he is the main guy I like the look of. Laporta kind of scares me a little bit because we don't know for certain whether he's going to play or not. The one that I did quite like the look of, the Rams are currently tied 22nd against giving up passing touchdowns. You can score on the Rams defense. Jameson Williams at 5-2. That's the price that I kind of like to look at the most. He's going to be the one for the big play over the top more than anything else. I don't think he's going to get a lot of receptions, but he might get just one that you need in order to go over, which is why he's a slightly bigger price. But the ones that I do like the look of on the Rams, I mean, obviously Cup and Nakua are kind of obvious, but they're 6-5. The one that I do like the look of, and I have mentioned before, is Demarcus Robinson. So at 13-5, I just think he's a very big price as someone who has scored a few touchdowns for the Rams in the run-ins to the playoffs. And, you know, you can score against this Lions defense. So, yeah, I think that Robinson is certainly one. At the beginning of the season, it felt like it was Tutu Atwell was the number 3 for them.
Mm-hmm.
Now it feels like it's moved to Demarcus Robinson. And like I say, at 13-5, I think he's a decent price.
Did you see me hovering there? I read your mind. It was telepathic.
I did mention him before, so I mean, there wasn't, you know, it wasn't that hard. But I'll let you off.
Now. I mean, I completely agree with you. Though. What in his last 2 games, I had a look. I think he's had 6 catches in each. He's getting touchdowns. We know he was on the Chiefs, right? You know, he was one of those sort of like speedster guys who was just looking for a home somewhere else. And I think he's adapted to this offense now, and I like that. If I was doing a bet builder for this game, I would probably put both of those Williams and Robinson in. I think, you know, especially in these playoffs games, you and I have discussed before, sometimes the corners step up, and that's when your second or third receivers have to make more plays than normal. So I like those picks. In your game, well, I mean, I mentioned Jordan Love. I actually like his price. Outside of that, I think it's pretty tough, but I would also say Wicks, but I might have stolen that from you. Who else have you got?
Yeah, so from the Packers side, obviously Jaden Reed at 13-8, I think it's still an okay price for him. It does feel like the book has kind of got him a little bit now. Like he was a bigger price before, but it feels like they've kind of got wise to it a little bit. Yes, Dontavian Wicks at 11-4. Wicks is the one, I think, that is going to be the real true wide receiver 1 on this team. There's a lot of wide receivers there, but I do feel like Wicks is the one. He's the one who can separate very, very easily. He does remind me of Devontae Adams a little bit. He really does, and I can see that happening as he improves over time. So yeah, Wicks at 11-4, really like. Another one that I really like on the Packers side. This is just a personal one. It's a bit of a big price, so you know, ignore me a bit. But at 9-2, Bo Melton. This is the guy who me and Andrew spoke about Bo Melton a lot when he came out of college. He was one that I really liked the look of. I thought he was kind of a bit of a Deebo Samuel type, whereas like he kind of had that speed, but he had that strength as well. He went to the Seahawks. They drafted him at the back of the draft, and then they let him go, and we picked him up for nothing. And he could be a really, really good wide receiver for any team. So yeah, Bo Melton at 9-2, I think is worth having a look at. But I think really the one that I like the look of the most is Wicks. And then on the Cowboys side, it's tough to get too excited about any of them apart from Brandon Cooks. He's 15-8, so I like the look of him. But for me, it's all going to be Pollard and Lamb, and at 4-6, I'm not really backing either of them on any time. So I would expect them both to score, but it's just not something that I'm really that bothered about.
Yeah, I don't like taking the risk when it's 4 to 6. I would have said Cooks. The only other people I sort of, when we spoke about tight ends before, but we know Tucker Craft has sort of stepped up for you guys when he's needed to in the red zone. And also, I know Jake Ferguson. I mean, you know how many times I've seen to have mentioned him, but Schoonmaker in the red zone. The Cowboys like to use 2, maybe even 3 tight end sets when they're using that play action and disguising the run. So you never know. One of those 2 guys could pop up with a red zone touchdown too. But yeah, it'll be a good game. And then we've got, well, I mean, you can tell by my tone, there's probably not many Steelers players on my list, but Gabe Davis, I don't know if you saw that. I think it was just before we started this, about an hour ago, they've announced that he's injured. So that sort of impacted my my choice on the Bill side, but I'll let you go first and then I'll jump in.
Yeah, so it does feel like if Gabe Davis isn't going to be playing, then obviously that is kind of he's still 12-5, but it does open up Khalil Shakir a bit at 3-1. I think as the number 2 guy. So at 3-1, I think he's worth having a look at. Obviously James Cook at 11-8, I think is worth looking at. Although the Steelers actually are very good against the run, so that is the one thing that kind of puts me off a little bit there. When it comes to the Bills, which he is a massive price at 7-1. Now this is a stat that came out. I think it was David Mendelson, who we both follow, who brought this out. Dawson Knox has scored, is it the last 3 years in the first round of the playoffs? He's scored a touchdown.
Yeah.
He scored in week 18. He's not the first choice tight end anymore. I think Kincaid has kind of taken that role now. But even still, he's still out there. He's still getting involved quite a lot. And so I think he's a good red zone target. So yeah, Dawson Knox at 7-1 is definitely one that you can look at and almost like don't put it in any of the trebles or anything, but have it as your single. At that price, it's a good price to have as a single if you don't want to go for it in a treble. And then on the Pittsburgh side, to me, it feels like it very much is Jaylen Warren and Najee Harris for this. These are the 2 guys. Both of them, especially Najee, I think he's the goal line back. I can see them getting in quite close and him sort of just getting across the line. But at 21-10, I think he's a very good price for him. You don't normally see him at that price over the last few weeks, so I think he's the one on that side. But yeah, there's not a lot in this one. I don't like any of the receivers for the Steelers, and I'm not. It's difficult because Stephon Diggs at 15-8 is a huge price for Diggs. It really is, and so it kind of makes you feel like going for it, but he just hasn't been involved. So I think for me, it's very much. I'd probably look at the 2 Steelers running backs, and then Dawson Knox as a bit of a flyer.
Yeah, the only thing that sold me on the receivers a bit is I stumbled across something earlier saying that George Pickens leads the NFL in yards per catch. It was Pickens, Ayuk, then Cooper, Brown, and Metcalf. So for him to be, I probably would steer away for Deontay Johnson because we know he had his own red zone troubles for a bit. And he's probably he's a bit more injury prone. But yeah, I think Pickens was a decent price. And also, we both mentioned about Gabe Davis. We saw Sherfield get in the end zone last week, obviously with that weird one. And for him to be 11, and I know the news has just come out, but we know bookies respond to that quite quickly. So for him to still be 11-2, if Shakir's gonna go up to 2 and then he'll be free, that's a good price as well, along with Knox.
So the only thing that kind of concerns me with the Steelers wide receivers really is that the Bills are currently tied second at giving up passing touchdowns, which basically means they don't give many up. So that's the only problem with that.
We'll leave him out then.
Yeah.
Dolphins versus Chiefs. Well, for any bets that we put on, it sounds like we'll both check them in the morning because we won't be staying up. Is our main man, or I should call him yours and Andrew's, really. I'm jumping on the bandwagon there. Is Rashee Rice the man, or is there a couple of others?
Yeah, so looking at it, there's not much. I mean, I do like Pacheco. I think he'll score, but he's lower than even, so I'm not really putting money on it. But I do think that he'll score. Rashee Rice is the main guy for the Chiefs now at 6-4. I like the look of that. I know that I know Andrew has done a double, which has included Justin Watson for the Saturday game. So I know that he's
Oh,
done that. So yeah, so he's gone for him at 3-1. I heard. I mean, he is the sort of more big-bodied wide receiver. So if they are in the end zone, I can kind of see where he's coming from. But to me, I don't think there's going to be loads of points here, and I think Rice at 6-4 is the obvious one on the Chiefs side. And then this is just purely me. Tyreek Hill at 13-10. I've come out and said if you ever get Hill above evens, then you back him.
yeah.
That's kind of just my thing with it. I don't know if I think if anyone's going to score on the Dolphins side, you feel like Hill's going to be the one that will, and so it just feels like that's the one to go for. I don't really have any interest in anything else there.
Yeah, I might even steer away from the bet builders on this one. But, Jeff Wilson seems to be getting some touches, and obviously he's got his own speed. I know they're hoping to have Mostert back. But the only reason I mention his name is because, unfortunately, like we both said for Miami when going through the spread, the amount of injuries, I mean, this could be a game where, I don't know if you could predict the future, and obviously we don't want to see anyone go down, but say someone did, you might be able to have someone step up in game. And I think even Kadarius Toney at 5-1. I mean, I know he's obviously the offside call and a lot of things that have gone against him. You have seen a lot of Chiefs still be quite vocal about his talent, and he has got talent. But yeah, maybe I'm only saying that because he's 5-1. I'm not encouraging it.
I'll let you do that.
Okay. I'll end up doing a bet builder now with Tony and Jeff Wilson, and
Yeah.
which will be silly. And then we've got this game, the one that we both said that I'm excited for it. And honestly, there's probably about 4 to 6 starting from here until, from Cooper to Brown. I could make a case for any of these players, really. So is there anyone who stands out, and not just from that bunch? It might be someone lower, but who do you like?
Yeah, so I think there's that, like you say, there are a few. I feel like this game is being kind of disrespected a little bit. I think it might be a little bit more exciting than what a lot of people think. As I said, the Texans are tied 27th when it comes to giving up rushing touchdowns this season. So Jerome Ford at 5-4 does become interesting. I think the thing is because they struggle with the run so much, I do feel like the Browns will use the run a little bit and maybe a bit more than what they have done. But if they can get that run going, it really does open up Joe Flacco and his passing. And I think that because of that, it does make you go more towards them wide receivers. Amari Cooper at 13-10, I think it's a small price for Cooper, but I do think it's one worth going for. But the one that I really like the look of is David Njoku at 21-10. I just feel like Flacco goes to him a lot, and he's kind of become, the tight end to have in the back end of the season. I think that you're going to be able to do something there. The Texans are very good against the pass, but they're very good against the pass because they're so bad against the run that not many people pass on them. So it's like I think Flacco is going to have to pass because it's just how he plays. So I think you're not going to have a problem with that, which basically means that Njoku at 21-10 is a good price. The Texans, the only one that I really like the look of is Nico Collins at 11-8. I just think he's their number one read for CJ Stroud now that Tank Dell's gone. So at 11-8, I think he's a decent price really for him because, he is seeing a lot of targets from Stroud. And the rest of them doesn't really excite me at the prices. I think Singletree might have a decent game, but I'm not really willing to take him at 11-10. So yeah, I think the two main guys is Collins at 11-8 and definitely Njoku at 21-10.
Yeah, I like that Collins one you mentioned there. I mean, I to be honest with you, I forget that he's like 6'4" because he's got speed and what he's done this season. I mean, he was only the 4th receiver in Texans history to have 1,000 yards. We put him in the same company as Andre Johnson, Hopkins, and Brandon Cooks. So I think people have actually stood up and noticed that he's a great receiver. And then on the Brown side, like you said about Flacco airing it out, I've ended up in a time warp this week because I've been watching old videos when Flacco had Anquan Boldin and Torrey Smith, and Amari Cooper
Okay.
has become that guy. He's the same
Yeah.
height, 6 foot, 6'1", big bodied, got a bit of speed, and yeah, I think like you said, there's just something about Joe Flacco where he knows he's got a defense that can back him up, a good team that can run. He's just going to throw a few missiles and see what happens at some point to Cooper, because that's what he does. And yeah, I think there's a lot of players in this, like you said, it's being disrespected the game, and it's probably one of the ones that I'm more excited for because of no one really probably picking either of these teams prior to the season.
Yeah, it does feel like that way. Obviously, like the Browns were kind of like felt like they could do a little bit more than what they had done, but even still, everyone was kind of a bit, concerned with Deshaun Watson and everything that was how good he was going to be. And obviously, the Texans, I don't think anyone was expecting them to get anywhere near the playoffs. I think they thought they'd improve, but they weren't expecting it to get to this point. So yeah, definitely that's probably why.
Shall we move on to the trebles? Because I'm sure you can't wait for. I've said I've struggled on a few games, so I've only gone for one treble. But we'll start with you before I go for my ridiculous talk.
So I've kind of got what I would consider a safe treble, and if there is such a thing, and then a slightly bigger one. So for me, I've gone for Rashee Rice at 6-4, Cooper Kupp at 6-5, and then Mike Evans at 11-10. So I think them three together, it came out to 10.55 to 1. So that's fine. That's not a problem as a decent price. It's quite low, but it is what it is. And then for my slightly bigger one, I have gone for David Njoku at 21-10. Dontavian Wicks at 11-4, and then Cooper Kupp again at 6-5, which comes out at 24.57 to 1. So that one a little bit bigger, but I do like the look of that, and I think that both of them are decent.
I was curious with that Kupp and Rice as a double there. You saw me clicking away. Even that's not bad considering they're both trusty. But get ready for mine because it's big. It is. I'm laughing already. 131 to 1. I've got to tell you the odds first, right? Jordan Love is in there at 7 to 1 for the reasons I said earlier, because he's had 2 rushing touchdowns in his last 2 games. You said you shouldn't have Dawson Knox in a treble, but he's in mine. Because as soon as I saw that Gabe Davis injury, I was like, well, 2 tight end set. They'll be focusing more on Kincaid. Let's throw him in. And then Mike Evans, for all the reasons that you said. I feel like if Tampa are going to do what I said and win, he will have to have a big game, because I weirdly think that the Eagles have a bit of an intimidation factor for full slot receivers like Godwin. So I don't see him having the biggest of games. I think it will be on Mike Evans to step up. And yeah, I was quite surprised that. Well, I guess I don't know why I'm saying I'm surprised. I've even done the double for them. I mean, we're here. I can. Yeah, I've even done the double for Knox and Love.
I mean, you've kind of got history on your side with Knox, obviously, and then as we said, Mike Evans shouldn't be a problem. That should come in. Imagine. But yeah, I mean, Jordan Love, I think that one you might be pushing it a little bit there. I don't know if that's going to be coming in, but like you say, he's had a couple of touchdowns, hasn't he? This year, he hasn't been too bad with the rushing touchdowns. So there's definitely a chance. It's worth a pound or two.
If 131 to 1 comes in, I will buy all 3 of those players' jerseys. Probably not brand new. You know, we want to be sustainable. We'll go for eBay or Depop, but I'll do some digging. Well, that's our trebles, and yeah, thanks, Adam. Great insight as always. Like I said, resident expert, and we'll see the trebles obviously on all the socials later. We'll be back with the weekly show again next Tuesday, and with the betting show again next week, won't we? So we wish everyone a great weekend. Enjoy the start of the playoffs, and we'll see you next time.